Hey everybody, Tim Lewis with TimLewisSports.com here. The weeks keep flying by. We're talking fantasy football week 6. Arizona, Buffalo, Carolina, and Cincinnati all have a bye this week, so keep that in mind as you're setting your starting lineup. A couple of key injuries to keep an eye on at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers and Jay Cutler, both fighting concussion issues. Cutler missed last week, so I would be surprised if he missed again this week, but he's not a guaranteed thing just yet, so keep an eye on that situation. Aaron Rodgers, far from a guaranteed thing. His backup is a guy named Matt Flynn, a third-year quarterback out of LSU with 64 career passing yards. If Rodgers doesn't play, stay away from Flynn. If Cutler does play, he has a favorable matchup at home against Seattle. Kansas City's Matt Castle, Tennessee's Vince Young also have favorable matchups this week. Castle only carries value if the Chiefs ever decide to throw the football. Peyton Manning should be huge against Washington. Matt Schaub and Joe Flacco should also be big this week. They should all be starting for you every week anyways. My sleeper quarterback of the week is Jacksonville's David Garrard. He's up against Tennessee. The Titans allowed 242 passing yards per game. They've only given up 6 passing touchdowns this season. But again, David Garrard, my sleeper quarterback this week. Several key injuries to keep an eye on at running back as well. Darren McFadden, Joseph Adai, Peyton Hillis, Pierre Thomas, Knowshon Moreno, all listed as questionable. Keep an eye on their situations as the week goes on. Michael Bush could see a lot of carries in Oakland again. Mike Hart could see carries in Indianapolis. Chris Ivory and Liddell Betts have split time for Pierre Thomas in New Orleans over the last couple weeks. Betts actually carries more value because he's been involved in the passing game as well. He just needs to learn to hold on to the football. Ryan Terrain was a huge disappointment last week for Washington, but I do expect him to bounce back this week against the Colts. The New York teams, the Jets and Giants, both have good matchups for running backs this week, facing Denver and Detroit, so Ahmad Bradshaw, LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Green all should have decent weeks this week. Very interested to see how Seattle uses Marshawn Lynch. They received him in a trade last week from the Buffalo Bills. They had a bye, though. Taking on Chicago this week, it's not the best matchup for him. Justin Forsett has not shown that he can be a starting quarterback in the NFL this season. Wouldn't be surprised if Pete Carroll and the Seahawks want to play with their toy a little bit. But keep an eye on Marshawn Lynch. If you don't start him this week, he's a guy you want to keep on an eye on in the future because he might start putting up some decent numbers in Seattle. Talking injuries at wide receiver as well. Calvin Johnson injured his shoulder, is listed as questionable this week. It doesn't sound like he's going to play, but keep an eye on that situation. Mark Clayton, who was playing really well in St. Louis, is done for the year with a knee injury. That opened the door for Danny Amendola last week. He had 12 catches for 95 yards. Might be worth taking a flyer on if you have room on your roster. Now, it looked like Kyle Orton was going to spread the love all over the field to all of his wide receivers, but Brandon Lloyd is his guy. Lloyd has 100-plus yards in 4 of his 5 games this season. Play him if you have him. Watch out for Tennessee's Kenny Britt and Nate Washington this week. They have a favorable matchup against Jacksonville. Should think about grabbing them at wide receiver if you need someone. They're not long-term solutions, but they have a possibility of putting up some decent points this week. One major injury to report at tight end, of course, that's Green Bay's Jermichael Finley. He's going to be out for at least a few weeks. Donald Lee is also out for the Packers, so that means Andrew Corliss is the guy in Green Bay. He had 4 catches for 51 yards last week. Keep an eye on him. I don't know if he's worth starting. I wouldn't say throw him in your starting lineup right away, but keep an eye on him, that's for sure. If you don't have one of the top tight ends, Kansas City's Tony Moeaki, if he's still available, grab him. He leads the Chiefs in receiving, plus he has an awesome matchup this week against Houston. I've been preaching Mercedes Lewis all season long. If he's still available, grab him. If he's not, I can't say I didn't tell you so. As always, you want to start the stars, Antonio Gates, Dallas Clark. I want to throw Zach Miller into the mix as well as one of the star tight ends. He's one of the most reliable, if not the only reliable wide receiver, target, I guess I should say, because he's a tight end, in Oakland. But Zach Miller among the guys that you should probably be playing every week at tight end. So if he's available, New England's Aaron Hernandez carries some value. He doesn't find the end zone, at least he hasn't yet this season, but he does carry some value in points per reception leagues. He gets 4 or 5 catches a week, and he also puts up some decent yardage. If he does find the end zone, Aaron Hernandez could be a pretty decent tight end for the rest of the season. A lot of bad teams have this week off, so a sleeper defense is pretty hard to come by. You have to start Pittsburgh, Chicago, Green Bay if you have them. I think the New York Giants have done decent so far, and they take on Detroit this week, so the Giants could be a good start. A little afraid of the Jets' defense against the Broncos' passing attack. They should be okay, though, especially if Noshan Moreno doesn't play. The Broncos passing attack could be throwing the ball quite a bit, and the Jets didn't look too solid against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. Chargers should be a decent start this week against St. Louis as well. Do whatever you want to do with kickers. I will tell you this, though. Jason Hanson saved me on one of my fantasy football teams last week. So anyways, kickers maybe do have some value after all. That's it for now. I'm thinking about doing some sort of a podcast. I don't know about another video blog later on in the week. Something that can supplement the video blog at least. Something with an injury update. Maybe answering some of the questions that I've received throughout the week as well. Tell me what you think about that idea. I don't want to waste my time if no one's going to pay attention to it. But if you like the idea and you listen to it or maybe even watch another video blog, let me know. I'm also open to all of your fantasy football questions, and I'm very easy to get a hold of. You can leave a comment on YouTube. You can also leave a comment on my website, timlewissports.com. You can get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm at Lewis Sports, Lewis Sports. You can also get in touch with me on Facebook as well. It's facebook.com/TimLewisSports. Not done yet. You can also email me. This is the way a lot of people have been getting in touch with me. You can email me at tim@timlewissports.com. I'm open to all of your fantasy football questions. You can ask me questions about anything you want, actually, not just fantasy football. I'm open to anything. So get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. I'm excited to help you out with your fantasy football teams. Trying to think of anything else? I don't think I have it for you. Good luck this week.